today with Joseph Schinco. How you doing, Joseph?
Great.
Great to see you. I knew you as a baby.
Yeah.
Now you're
Very happy to be here.
Oh, it's a pleasure. So, Joseph, I had you come in because you've taken on a huge endeavor, and I think that the audience would be pleased to hear your story because there's not a lot of young entrepreneurs like yourself that are looking to build in New York City. And the podcast is about, informing the audience about what it takes and what it is that we do here in New York City and, all the different things that we're up against. So currently you're the owner of Greats of Craft in Manhattan on 54th and 1st. Great plug. Gotta go. You love craft beer.
Check us out. Coffee by day, beer by night.
That's it. Coffee by day, beer by night. And so, Joe, you grew up in Long Island. Your dad's my partner. I know your dad since we're 5 years old. I was around when you were an infant, and I've watched you grow up. And here we are today. Grew up in Long Island. Went on to University of Pennsylvania, went to Wharton School, great education, and you found yourself, doing consulting and other things. So tell us a little bit about that and tell us how you got into the bar business, which then led you onto this project that you're doing now. So if you want to just tell us
sure. Thanks again for having me.
Of course.
Appreciate it. But like you said, so I went to University of Pennsylvania, studied at the Wharton Business School, and like most people, I guess, that leave that school, I went into management consulting for a little while. Great experience, but wasn't really kind of what I was looking for. I think I always had like a bit of the entrepreneurial bug, and always was drawn to food and beverage and hospitality and that side of the world. And so I left that, joined a family pizzeria restaurant that we had up in New Rochelle. For a little while. Then spent some time at Star Restaurant Group, which is it's a great company based out of Philadelphia, but they have big restaurants up and down the East Coast.
And what did you do for them?
So I started in like front of house management. I was running like a quick service restaurant that he had in Chelsea Market. And then I transitioned to their corporate office when they found out I could use Excel. So I became like their financial analyst. So I did like analyzing the current businesses, doing all the pro formas for any new projects he was considering, which was an amazing learning experience. To see from like pros.
You get to project what you think you can make. That's a good thing.
That's right.
Hence how you got to the bar business.
And and as I was just going through my career, I was always trying to scheme about how to go off on my own and start something. I knew I wanted to do that eventually. And and GOC kind of came about that way. I knew I didn't want to do a full service restaurant, a lot of moving parts, super expensive to build out. But I knew I wanted to make a neighborhood spot. And hence the idea of coffee by day, beer by night, people kind of filtering in and out all day long.
You get two brands in one place.
So that's kind of where it all started.
How's that working out?
Yeah, I mean, so far so good. The other week, we just passed 4 years.
Oh, congratulations!
So,
God bless you.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a little dicey there during COVID, but we never closed. We stayed open the whole time, and I think we're stronger because of that. So things are going well.
There's a lot of negativity from COVID, but there's also some positivity. So that's great. So you have this restaurant.
Yeah.
You're married now.
Your
wife is part of the group.
That's right. Yeah.
So now you're venturing off, and one of the reasons you're here today is that we're on our 14th podcast, and we haven't had a young entrepreneur who can tell the audience about acquiring a piece of property in Long Island City, going through the process of architect, engineer, expediter, contractors, insurance, different city agencies,
to name a few,
neighbors. My dad always has been mentioned in this show several times about he always had a saying for me and your dad when we were growing up together, when we were kids, and we were always together because I spent a lot of time with your dad and my dad. And he always said, if it was easy, everybody'd do. And he would say that in his Italian accent, like your grandfather, right? And we could relate to those things, right? Because if it was easy, everybody would do it, right? And I know for a fact that what you're going to tell me today is not, it's easy. And I think that's what I wanted to bring to the audience today, Joseph, is that for you to take on a project like that, and obviously having your dad, what your grandfather instilled in you about construction, because he was in the construction world. I hope myself in networking with people and connecting with people, having ways to get to people, your dad, me, we know a lot of people, that it does help, but it's definitely not easy. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about where you came up with the idea, how it started, and where you are in the process, because you're in the middle of it now.
Yeah.
And like I said to other guests, the good news is I got you on now. The bad news for you is you're going to have to come back in about a year from now or 6 months from now when you're done with the project to tell us the full story. And I think that's what I love about my podcast. And I say that openly because to me, we're not always looking in the rearview mirror. We're looking forward. So this is where we are now. You're going to come back and tell us where we are. So take us through the process of finding the property and coming up with the concept.
Yeah, sure. So I'd say it was certainly a eye-opening experience for me. I had a little bit of construction background, just building obviously the first brick and mortar shop, and then in prior.
Building the other restaurants.
Jobs, exactly. But nothing like this, nothing to this scale. And I think, I naively thought you see a for sale sign on a building, you put in an offer, you get a design going, you get some permits, and you kind of just go, is what I thought. Yeah. And and that is not quite how it works.
And from a simplistic standpoint, on an overall goal, that is true. The devil's in the details, right? And so I found this property. Now I negotiate it. Now I got to find money.
Right. Yeah. So money, dealing, the way this project was financed is, raised a little bit of money from close-knit like friends and family, but then predominantly through SBA, small business loan.
Great.
And the idea from it was, we knew I wanted to keep building the Greats of Craft brand, and I wanted to go beyond just the existing four walls in Manhattan. And it would be amazing to kind of have a home base that was like ours, right?
Because you not only have I don't want to speak for you, but from what I understand is that you not only have the bar, but you have a truck, you do parties, you do not catering, but you have beer on wheels.
Yeah. There's a whole event side of our business now.
Because I've met you in upstate New York while I'm fishing. I come over, and I see you and Stella
do festivals and weddings and corporate parties and stuff like that. Yeah,
exactly. So I didn't, so. Part of this concept is not just for it to be a venue and for it to be a bar, but it's also your home base where you can park your vehicles, you can store your stuff, you can do your stuff for the other parts of the business.
Yeah. So we have like two vintage vehicles now. One's a 1960s Volkswagen, and the other is like a little Piaggio Ape that's been converted, like you said, to beer tap trucks on wheels.
Tap truck, yeah.
And so this is the idea was like this could be home base, right? As this is for all of the
and Long
different
Island
facets.
City is the greatest place because you can get to Long Island, you can get to Manhattan, you can get to the outer boroughs.
Totally, yeah.
It's similar to where we are here in Greenpoint.
That's
You're
right.
Just,
you
in the
just
neighborhood.
Go. That's right. Yeah, and. So we kind of, my father's actually the one that came across the building. It's like literally at the foot of the 59th Street Bridge. And, this is, at this point, almost 2 years ago is when this really started already.
Takes a while to get ideas.
So by the time, hopefully we open next April, it'll be about 3 years in the making from the time of,
stress.
Seeing the, not one ounce, but it'll all be worth it.
Of course.
But yeah, like you said, so we, we've been in construction for a few months now.
Yeah.
I've learned the phrase now. We're technically out of the ground, which has been a big milestone.
There was a gentleman on, just to quote this for you, Joseph. There was a gentleman on that said, the biggest place where you lose your money in a construction site is in the ground. The greatest relief is when you get out of the ground. The unknown is when you dig a hole. When you dig that hole and you start putting in piles and you start putting in a foundation and there are so many things that can go wrong. Water, rock, neighbors, foundations, this, that. And I'm sure you've been up against all of them. And you're being very casual and not talking about it, which is great. But we've built before, your dad and I and Sergio, we've built before. And those are the things but yes, that is a big milestone that once you get out of the ground, then pretty much you control the site because you're not dealing with the neighbors. You're not dealing with, water. You're not dealing with a hole filling up with water after a torrential rainstorm and all of those other problems that go. So that's a big milestone. So congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you. But yeah, and I would say, like you said to that point is, you think you just kind of, you do a few test bits, right?
Yeah.
And you do a few digs and you think rocks, you're in the clear. But you only do 3 of those, right? So then when you do the full excavate, now you hit rock and it throws another wrench into the whole project,
and then
right?
The neighbor's upset because you're too close to the foundation.
Right,
And he wants his wall fixed and this and that.
Yeah.
So all of those things, I say that from 37 years of experience. Not that it happened on your job, but it happens on every job. So I know it happened on your job.
Yeah.
I don't even have to ask you if it happened because I know it has. So tell me a little bit. I know that you work with Reese from Method.
From Method,
yeah. And tell me a little bit about the process. You've worked with them before.
Yeah, so I actually met Reese back in about 2015, 2016. I used to work for a company called HelloFresh. Does like meal kit deliveries to home, and I did a bunch of their real estate expansion, like managing warehouses and stuff like that. And Reese was one of the architects that they worked with, so I met him and became friendly with him and Method Design through those projects. And then when we went off on our own and did the first Greats of Craft in Manhattan, we called upon him.
And actually, we've worked with Reese on a project in
oh, awesome! I didn't realize that.
in Industry City.
Got it.
I think it was HelloFresh or Fresh Direct. I don't remember which one it was, but it was a small project. And we ended up through you. We ended up working with them. So thank you. He does a great job.
Amazing, yeah. So recent team, super talented, super knowledgeable, and they've been such a valuable resource to have in our corner, just to bounce ideas off of and ways to navigate, like different problems that come up that you didn't even think about, when you started the project.
Well, first of all, in all due respect, how much construction experience do you have?
No, month.
Right. And even the limited amount that your dad and I have. We built the building next door. We built the building in the Bronx, and we were the owners, but we weren't the builders. We were the owners.
Yeah.
So taking this on is a huge responsibility. And as a young entrepreneur that never built their own building, financing is an issue, right?
Sure.
Always a lot of nerves there because
Always,
you come up with a budget and you're always going to be over budget. You change your mind, you want more. Everything is so expensive. There's delays with materials. So you get Reese on board. You have, I'm sure, structural engineers, electrical engineers. I mean, most of those recommendations came through Reese.
And then so we have a new age engineering on board as well. So Steve and his team, they've been phenomenal to work with. And then of course, I'm super lucky and super privileged to have my father be part of design, your partner, in and around the construction business for most of his life. So that's invaluable kind of resources to have in your corner.
Right, because if not, you'd have to go hire someone to do
exactly.
And that's just another, and that's not cheap.
Not cheap. So
not someone who has knowledge in building, and your father has background in structural. So he's got the whole. And he's very detail oriented, which is awesome. I'm honored and privileged to be his partner and friend since we're 5 years old, so we know each other 53 years. Not to give away his age, but Tom, you're still older than me. So now you have this idea. So tell us about why did you think Long Island City? Why is this the spot? What do the demographics tell you? Fast forward to next April when you hope. Design will get you a TCO so you can open up and have our first drink together. Is why'd you pick Long Island City?
So I actually used to live in Long Island City, like near the Court Square station off of Jackson.
I remember that. Yep.
So I spent a few years in that neighborhood with my brother, and you kind of saw that neighborhood develop from nothing,
to a little metropolis.
Yeah, totally. Just that's what high rises and towers everywhere.
Right, and that's what rezoning does. And what happens, and part of our discussion today was about rezoning, is the apartments buildings come first, and then the commercial comes later, because there needs support
Right.
But not everybody's ready to dive in yet.
That's
the
right.
supermarket may go first, the little deli, the pizza shop, but the specialty restaurant, the bar,
Right.
the
It's a
other,
little
the
chicken
bike
and egg
shop,
almost. Yeah,
it
yeah.
takes time for to see what the neighborhood needs. So
Yeah.
so you see that there's a need for a place like GOC.
Yeah, just a neighborhood rallying point, right? I think
Right.
it's kind of what we are at the core, where it's just people filter in and out. They feel like it's the, this other third place,
It's
if
the
you
Cheers
will.
of Long
The
Island
Cheers
City.
of Long Island City.
I love it.
Yeah.
The Cheers of 54th Street. I got it.
Like somewhere to, do some work, have a coffee meeting, go on a date, celebrate a birthday party, or just
open your laptop and have a beer while you're
Exactly,
walking around waiting for
exactly.
the next.
That's right.
Waiting for the next event.
Yeah, totally. So, so we saw kind of firsthand the development happening in Court Square area.
Right.
Obviously, near Vernon and the waterfront has been developed and
Sure.
changed a lot over the years as well. And, I think the third part is like the proximity to Manhattan as well. The fact that it's right off the 59th Street Bridge,
so
right
you
by
could
Queensboro
come from
Plaza.
54th and come straight
And
over.
right there, right?
You can take an Uber, be there
from
in
our
10
existing
minutes.
spot, it's
Right.
10 minutes in the
That's what I
car,
said,
not
10,
even.
10 minutes. You just jump over the.
Yeah. So I think
That's
all
great.
three of those kind of
And
factors.
plus now, I did see the plans a while ago, so I don't remember it. But I do understand you'll have like an event space. You'll have a place to park
Yeah,
the vehicles.
yeah.
You'll have a place to load the vehicles. So it really turns into a multi-purpose type building. It's
Plus
not
a whole
just-
rooftop, yeah.
Right, rooftop. The whole gamut.
Yeah. So there'll be a whole like rooftop beer garden component to it, a ground floor bar cafe, private dining room for events and parties.
Beautiful.
And then we're working on a secret, not so secret, like little speakeasy that'll be tucked
cool.
away on the mezzanine. So
Nice.
more on that to come next.
Oh, that's awesome. So I'm going to bring this up because I think it's something that everybody's concerned with these days in construction. So I'm not putting you on the spot, but it's just your opinion. Financing. Financing's a big issue.
Yeah.
A lot of the things that we're hearing is that there's plenty of money to be given out, but nobody can get it. I know personally, in my own personal life, as I'm getting older, I'm restructuring my ways, and refinancing used to be a simple thing. Things that we did here at Design with our bank used to be, we knew our bank forever, and it was, but banks have. The
Yeah, the
regulations
landscape's
have
changed a
really,
little bit,
really
yeah.
tightened up. So, one of the things that we're hearing from a lot of our developers is that, if you have private equity, you're good to go. But if you don't have private equity, it's kind of tough. So,
Yeah.
So you said a little bit about the SBA. How was that process?
It was slow and arduous for sure. I think we got pretty lucky that the seller of the building was sympathetic, I think, to the vision we had and the project we wanted to do.
Wow. Very
So they
lucky.
were willing to kind of wait. And as we, went through all the steps with the bank and the financing and SBA, because it definitely took a lot of time.
Well, that's
Yeah.
what we were talking about. We were talking about law changes, and it sounds great because they send out this thing. And one of the things that we talked about with Ashley from Capolino was, how long does this take?
Yeah,
She's like,
yeah.
well, they just put it out now. It's 5 months for this.
Right.
It's 7 months for that. Yeah, well, maybe by next June we'll have an
Yeah,
answer for you. And but unfortunately that's the way it is. And the same thing, I was dealing with a bank myself personally, and it just seemed like they were very willing and able at the very beginning for me to sign and give them a deposit to refinance. But it seemed like to close had all these crazy stipulations that we were never up against. And I know as a consumer, not in the construction end, but just in the personal end, I was extremely frustrated.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
now fast forward, you get the building. Now you got to build it.
Yeah.
So did you go down the construction loan route? What was the...
So the SBA finance is all kind of wrapped in.
they wrapped it all
yeah,
together.
it's all together. It was
good
like
for you.
partially associated with the purchase of the real estate, and then the majority of it for
Great.
the construction.
And then the balance you made up with private equity.
Exactly. Yeah.
good for you.
With raising. Yeah.
That's so great.
Yeah.
So you're on budget?
It depends on what budget you want to use, but
Right. But I mean,
no. But I mean, it's a struggle.
And the reason why I asked that question is because I think that one of the reasons that I was intrigued to have you on the podcast is that we all have experience, right? And your experience is way different than mine, right? I went to City College with your dad, and we were architects. We knew nothing about doing spreadsheets. We knew nothing about managing money. We knew nothing about construction schedules. And we built quite a few buildings together. And we did well with them. I know, because I just built my own home up in upstate New York, that I thought I knew it. And I sat there and I took the Excel spreadsheet, and my son, Ralph, is a financial analyst as well for Invisalign. And he gave me this fancy spreadsheet, and he says, all right, Dad, you put all these numbers in. And I put all these numbers, and I came up with a budget, and I says, I could build this house for X. And lo and behold, when I got to X, I was about 3/4 of the way done, and I said, oh boy, I got some issues. And now I'm going to give the flip side of that. You went to the University of Pennsylvania. You have a Wharton degree. School of Business. You told me how great you are with an Excel spreadsheet. So now I want you to tell me, and I want to tell the audience how that spreadsheet's really working out. And not in a bad way, Joseph, but I think that it's important that there are so many factors that come into building, that the unknown, the cost of material, the cost of labor. Oh, the architect said you wanted this, but now you say you want these doors. Well, that was 10,000, and these are 20,000. So
and then when that change has a ripple effect that impacts like 3 other things,
well,
right? So it becomes
that's kind of what I wanted you to talk about. So you're out of the hole now. You're above ground, which is awesome. You're getting ready probably to put up your block and your steel, and you're getting ready to really build a shell. How's the process going in terms of dollars and cents, and how are your projections? And how are you adjusting to these escalated costs, or making the changes as you go? Are you raising more money? Are you making changes?
Yeah, so I think coming at it from a smaller business stance and not having endless pockets to dip into and stuff like that, you find yourself constantly making like trade-offs now, right? Where the well is finite. There's not a endless pocket to keep dipping into. So it's all right. We might have already originally spec'd this beautiful tile floor, but all this other stuff happened with the foundation, so that ate up a bunch of money. So guess what? Now it's a polished concrete floor,
right?
And that's what's happening. And we're gonna tweak
and it's funny that you say that, because I think that a lot of times I say the same thing to myself, like, wow, they did such a great job. Why did they just polish? And me personally, I love it. I love the industrial look. But to me, I think that if you polish the floor with concrete, it'll be there forever, and no one will ever say it's outdated, right?
True.
But if you put tile down, in 10 years, they're like, oh my God, who used that
color?
tile?
Yeah, you're right.
So sometimes there's trade-offs that actually work in your favor.
So,
and I know that in my own stuff that I built myself, like my house in the country, I had to do a trade-off, and one of them was the concrete floor on the porch. And everybody loves it. And they're like, my wife's like, you're never going to finish it? She goes, oh no. She goes, we're never going to finish it. I love it. I'm glad he never finished it. So sometimes things happen.
It can work out.
But that spreadsheet, and that is really a big part of the stress of building. It's not a GMP in our world where they call it a guaranteed maximum price, because if it was a guaranteed maximum price, you'd be handcuffed and you'd have no flexibility to say, no, I'm not changing this, or yes. There's still gonna be extras no matter what.
Yeah,
because
for sure.
When you dig that hole and you deal with the neighbor and you deal with the
you just can't come up with everything that will come up. You just don't know.
There's not enough contingency.
That's right. There's
just not enough.
Yeah.
So here we are. So schedule is April of.
April of 24. Yep, that's the big push. So we can.
What does the schedule look like?
No, the schedule so far so good. Yeah, we're holding to that. We really want to be open for that first spring and summer season. Get that rooftop full, and
Great. And now, is this the last project?
No, we're just getting started.
Oh, great.
I
love it. I
think this will be big for sure, and it's super important that this one does really well and is humming on all cylinders. But hopefully this is just the first big step. Yeah, just the beginning.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Part of what you're going to experience is going to be crossing the finish line. So as you call me Uncle Sis, the finish line's always the toughest part. And that's where your patience and getting all the subs to give you what you need and work with, working with design and working with our staff to get your temporary C of O, to get your place of assembly, to be able to open is a big deal.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And what happens at the end of that is, as we go through it, you're at the end, you spent a lot of money, you want revenue to start, you're itching to open, and now you got to get all this paperwork through the city.
Yeah.
And I think that that's really a place where, having 37 years of experience and having your dad to be, part of it is having the subs give you what you need to get to that finish line is really a huge achievement. Yeah. So I'm glad that design is part of this vision
Me
for
too.
you.
Me too.
I'm glad that I've gotten to see you grow up and turn into this an incredible entrepreneur. You and your brother, both of you, Nico in the photography world, as well as helping you with the bar. It's great that you've also taken a lot of what your dad and I and Sergio had in terms of passion to build and to do things. So I'm excited for you, Joseph. I'm excited for the audience to know that it is possible, that if you have a dream and you have good people around you and you can find ways that it is possible to build in New York City, even if you really don't have a ton of experience, but you have the desire. And like I said before, the good news is that we're going to get you to come back next April. We're going to throw a big party for the Sisto Says podcast when the venue's open to have all our guests that were on the show. We're going to come and have some great craft beer, and we're going to be able to see your vision and see your prosperity. So thank you for coming in and sharing your story.
Thanks for having me.
It's a great story.
Appreciate it.
And we look forward to having you back.
Thank you.
Awesome.